Welcome, everybody, to TRB Live. We are the Resistance broadcast, 2/3 of the Resistance broadcast. Anyway, I'm John. That's Lacey. And James is on a mission. He's on a mission to find out where Ezra is before the Ahsoka series. So he wants to just get that out of the way before that show comes out, because 2 months is a really long time. So he's over there in some unknown regions. I don't know what he's doing, but he should be back with us on Monday. But we are very happy to be here with you all. We're going to talk about the latest Star Wars news. And honestly, Lacey, it's like 95% Ahsoka.
It is. It's all Ahsoka all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like we got hit with a bunch of Ahsoka in the face this week. But I'm okay with it
Ahsoka
because I'm
right
pretty
in the
pumped
face.
for the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, very excited.
It's almost like we got whipped in the face by her, whatever they call it,
Leku?
Leku, yeah. So before we do that, though, speaking of Ahsoka, today is if you're watching live, and of course, if you to remind everybody, if you have to cut out or whatever, the podcast will hit your audio feeds tomorrow on Thursday morning. So don't worry about that. But if you are joining us live, we appreciate that very much. And just so you know, later in the show, we're going to be doing Ask the Resistance. So during the episode, if you think of any questions that you think would be cool for us to talk about in the show, just use the hashtag Ask the Resistance in your comment in the live chat, and we'll pick a few to talk about. But today is Dave Filoni's 49th birthday. The showrunner for Ahsoka, now one of the big, obviously, creative heads of Lucasfilm, understudy to George Lucas. So happy birthday to Dave Filoni. Dave, come on the pod.
Do you think he got a hat for his birthday?
That's probably the one thing he didn't get.
You think? You don't think he gets like a new hat every year? Like that's the gift everybody's realized, like Star Wars stuff with me, like everybody's like, oh, he likes that hat. So they just keep buying him hats. No, like they just keep getting him the hat. Like it's the fallback gift.
Did you notice when we'll bring up the behind the scenes photos in a bit when we get into the news, but it seems like when he's on the clock and doing the work, he wears his like baseball cap, his like Penguins baseball cap. But then when it's like promotion time and PR time, that's when he puts the cowboy hat back on.
Well, he did say in an interview that the reason he wears the hat is so that when he takes it off, people don't recognize him. It's like Clark Kent with the like glasses.
Interesting. I think I'd still recognize him though.
I mean, now, yeah. I think a couple of years ago, he probably could have gotten away with it.
Yeah. Now, if he shaved his beard and then took the hat off, I don't know. But anyway, happy birthday, Dave Filoni. Real quick, Lacey. Now, this sort of gained some steam accidentally just because of Katie Sackhoff's joking nature about this kiss that happened in the Mandalorian season 3 where Brendan
Dinbo
Wayne
could have been a thing.
Yeah, well, it still can. Mando's not done, but when they were done shooting a take, Brendan Wayne leaned in and kissed Bo-Katan through their helmets, and she said it was a joke. It wasn't like part of the. I think this is where the audience some people have gotten lost in this. Katie Sackhoff is saying this wasn't part of the story that got cut. It's just something Brendan did to be funny, and she had joked about it at some convention she was at.
She was at Fan Expo, I think Philly.
Oh, Fan Expo, and people ran wild with it. And there was some
Phoenix. Sorry, Phoenix.
Oh, Phoenix. Okay. Mm-hmm. And there were some, blogs that wrote articles about it, and like even photoshopped Pedro's face into it to look like he was leaning in for a kiss. It like took off, and you know what happens? People see that and then they're like, oh, then why did they cut that? Why did Favreau take romance out of Star Wars? So as far as I understand it, and I believe Katie Sackhoff put a tweet out clarifying it, it was just a joke thing that they did. Now, that also doesn't mean that Favreau isn't going to explore the romance in the future, but this wasn't something that they cut like the way they cut like Axe Woves' death in season 2 or something like that. This was just a joke thing that Brendan Wayne did.
Yeah, I was one of those people that played into the joke and I was like, we were robbed in all caps. Like I was one of the people that tweeted that. I knew that she was joking, but at the same time, I've said this numerous times, Star Wars has a romance problem and there's nothing wrong with having romance. I feel like in recent years, pop culture, movies in general, and franchises have kind of steered away from romance because they think like, oh, that's too much. They think they fall into like a Twilight trap, which again, I have nothing against Twilight. I think for the people that like it, it's awesome. But I feel like people saw that and they were like, oh, we don't want to be that. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with having romance. Some of the best movies Top Gun Maverick, Indiana Jones, they all have romance. So I don't understand why all of a sudden it's become this thing that they can't have it, or if they do, they kind of don't fully commit like they did with Rey and Kylo Ren. Um, so this was something that like all season I was just getting vibes. And I said that every time we did Mando fan show, I was like, guys, they like stared a little too long. And I feel a little bit vindicated in Katie's comments because while it didn't happen on screen, she did make a joke about how the waters of Mandalore, like, oh, should we go back in together? How would this work with the masks off? And I remember joking or saying on the show, like, the way she stared at him in that moment was like very kind of romantic when she has this moment of like, oh, he's very much committed to this religion and committed to this way of life. And I remember James had said, which I'm gonna call him out right now, I feel bad he's not here, but he was like, "Oh, it's not romantic." And then Katie's talking about, like, them going in the water together and, like, taking their clothes off, and I was like, "Hmm, maybe I'm not the only one that got this vibe."
Mhm,
Like,
mhm, yeah.
something going on. But I think more than anything, clips like this just show how awesome Katie is. Like, every time she talks about Star Wars, every interview she does has such, like, a fun energy behind it. And I mean, she was trending virally a couple months ago when she was on Christian Harloff's show about the jokey comments she made on that show about kind of like romantic things between her and fans. So,
Oh,
uh,
yeah.
I think she has a great sense of humor. I think she understands what fans want and what she herself wants. Like she said, she was also kind of rooting for it, and she called that moment on the boat like her Titanic moment. Um,
Oh,
I
yeah.
really hope it happens. I really hope we get more romance in Star Wars. I feel like we're not getting enough.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And I've been thinking about that a long time, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast. It's like the two most well executed romances in Star Wars, at least in live action. I know people really love Hera and Kanan, but the two
Sure.
live action instances were the best involve Han Solo, in my opinion.
He's
Han
got
and
some
Leia and
moves.
Han and Kira.
He's got moves.
Yeah, and both happen to have been written by Lawrence Kasdan, who knows how to write a thing or two beyond space fantasy. So I don't know if it's a fear. I agree. I think Star Wars needs that back in. They need it done right, and it doesn't. I don't think it should be one of those things where you're dragging people along with this will they, won't they thing, unless there is a clear implication. Because I think people felt pretty burned by the Rey and Kylo thing. I never thought that it would end up that way. And then they sort of did this compromise thing at the end. We don't need to get into all that stuff. We talked about it ad nauseum, but I agree with you. I think Star Wars needs to bring back a well-told romance that doesn't have to be the whole story, like Lost Stars or something, but weave it in sort of like they did with the original trilogy. Luke is still the main person, but you have Han and Leia there, and it was a really impactful, slow build, but you saw the seeds of it coming, right? So
Yeah. I
I don't
do
know.
see people in the comments, by the way, talking about how there's romance in the video games, there's romance in the
Oh
books.
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
talking strictly live action, guys. Like I want more movies and shows with some romance in it. I do have to say though, I did laugh out loud at the girl that's filming the video where she was like, "Yay, Dimbo." And I was like, "Oh, so we are rolling with that." Cuz I remember early on I was like, "Dimbo." And people were kind of like, "That's a stupid name, Lacey." And it seems to have caught on, and I'm all for it cuz I think it's hilarious.
Well, didn't that whole merging of the names thing start with Bennifer, Ben Affleck, and Jennifer Lopez? That was the first
Merging
time
of
I ever
names.
saw it.
I mean, that's like, oh, we're talking like early 2000s with that
But now
one.
they're back together.
I know Bennifer is probably like the first time I heard people combining
Or
names.
Brangelina.
Brangelina, yeah. Yeah,
And now
probably
it's just like,
celebrity merges.
which half of the name do I use and which half of their name do I use? Because I had said Manbo for a while.
No, I've always said Dimbo because it made me
Dim
laugh. It just
but
sounds
doesn't that
funny.
sound like bimbo a little bit?
Yes, and that's why I love it.
Okay. Now imagine if Bo-Katan was blonde, then we're in trouble. For his
I want Katie to come on the show and talk about romance with me because she does Hallmark movies. She is all about Dimbo. Come on the
yeah.
show, Katie. Let's talk about some romance in Star Wars and what you'd like to see.
I think Katie would have a lot of fun with us on the podcast. But
I think so
her
too.
tweet to clarify it, because it really started getting out of control. Because, like I said, blogs were running with it and making doctored images, pretending Pedro was on set and stuff. Just pretty
Imagine having that
irresponsible.
power, by the way. That must be like a weird space for her to be in, where she's like, every time I make a joke, like it runs.
Oh
It
yeah.
like goes all over the place.
I don't blame the bloggers because they're trying to do their thing, but what
Yeah.
concerns me is setting up a false expectation by making people think it was something that was taken away.
Mm.
And then when it
Mhm.
happen, people get angry at Jon Favreau, which people keep getting angry at Jon Favreau when I don't think they should. But her tweet to clarify goes, "As a joke. He grabbed my face and kissed me through his helmet as a joke. It's amazing how these things spread. It wasn't actually part of the scene." So she was like, I hope she doesn't stop joking because of this, because like there's been some people affiliated with Star Wars or anything really who are like, you know what? I'm gonna stop talking about stuff because clearly people take my stuff the wrong way. I hope she doesn't like withdraw because
I
you're
don't
right,
think so. I think she has a pretty good sense of humor, but
the fan.
I
Yeah.
also, once again, come back to even if it was a joke, if the vibe they both got in that scene was that it was somewhat romantic to the point that he made a joke like that, it's there.
Yeah.
The energy is there, so let's roll with that, Jon Favreau.
Sure.
Let's
Absolutely.
let's keep it going.
Yeah, and then the last thing before we get into the resistance report, just make sure everyone likes the video, subscribes to the channel. We are well past the 2,000 mark, and I believe we were almost there on 500 ratings on Spotify. I think last night I checked, we were like 3 away. So that would be cool if we can get Spotify 500 ratings for TRB. Can we do it on this episode? Can people who haven't rated us yet on Spotify, who have Spotify, look us up and just rate TRB and let us know what you think? And hopefully that comes with 5 stars. We have 499. We need one rating, and we'll get to 500 on Spotify, which is so huge.
One is the loneliest
Yeah.
night.
So someone in this chat, if you have Spotify and you haven't rated us yet, pick up your phone, go to Spotify, rate us, and let us know that you were the one who did 500. We appreciate that. And yes, get those Ask the Resistance questions in throughout the show. Maybe as we're talking about stuff, you think of something. But now it is time to head to our segment called the Resistance Report.
It's the Resistance.
Okay, it is Ahsoka time, and Lacey, we got this. I don't want to call it a TV spot because I don't think people watch TV anymore, but I'm gonna call it a mini trailer, and it was like 30 seconds long, but it had some new shots in it, specifically, and we'll get to the photos in a bit of Sabine. A little more attention on Sabine here, which I think is good because everyone knows Ahsoka's in the show. It's her show. She's the main event. But
Yes.
you need to build up these other characters that, especially for people who may not be that familiar with them from animated, with Rebels, specifically Sabine, because I think Sabine's going to play a massive role in this, and I think they made that clear. And you know how Filoni is very deliberate about things, what he wants people to know or not know, and seeing her with the lightsaber, I think was really cool. And then we got another look at the villains and interesting quotes from the show itself about Ahsoka using the actual line "heir to the Empire," which people have been wondering, are they going to make that
Which
book
these
into this thing? So
Yeah, these clips, interestingly enough, a lot of them did come from stuff at Celebration that we had seen.
yeah,
In the Celebration showcase panel on the Friday, and then also the Ahsoka stuff on Saturday.
right,
So, I felt like I was like, "Oh, this is all awesome," but I remember seeing it at Celebration. But it's nice to see that they put it out there for everybody to see.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to have them quote Heir to the Empire in the actual, like, teaser clip,
I was very surprised.
especially because that's what people ran with a couple weeks ago of like, "Oh, is that what the movie's gonna be?" Remember that was, like, thrown out there, and they were like, "I think they were just referencing this." Um, which we know Dave Filoni likes to kinda wink, wink at the fans and be like, "See, I know what you like. I know I know what you guys
Right.
like to talk about," and this was no different. But, yeah, no, definitely the big thing for me was seeing Sabine with the lightsaber, which I pulled the image up here on the screen, so if you're
Yes.
watching an
Yes.
audio or listening on audio, please head over to the video, but she looks awesome, and it didn't get lost on me that she's also wearing, like, an orange top, kinda like Ezra, so it's very she has, like, an Ezra look going.
Yeah, I agree. And that is interesting because I still want to do a rewatch of Rebels at the very least. 'Cause, it's crazy with life with 2 kids and fighting over the TV sometimes can be rough. But I want to rewatch all of Rebels, but at least season 4 when we remember that Chopper is the one who gave Sabine Ezra's lightsaber, and Ezra had given it to Chopper. So it almost reminds me a little bit of like Luke with R2 with the lightsaber exchange. But even though Chopper gave it to her to help with the escape, you gotta feel like Ezra was okay with that and knows that Sabine, if anyone was gonna have his lightsaber, he feels secure at Sabine having it, especially she's had experience with the dark saber, So it's a very cool shot. I like how the blade looks pointy. It's
Mhm.
interesting that it's like sort of old school like that. And I think she just looks great. So I'm excited to see what happens with her in combat because we've seen Ahsoka with her 2 white lightsabers. Now we get to see a green lightsaber back in live action. And it happens to be Sabine using Ezra. It's very cool.
Yeah, I think the thing I saw a lot of people talking about this week is they had released an image of Sabine and Ahsoka together where Sabine has shorter hair, and then they have these clips of her with the lightsaber where she has longer hair. And everyone's like, "Oh, look at these shots. When did they happen?" And I believe the shorter hair one is a flashback, is what had happened previously. And
Okay.
then the long hair is when because Ahsoka comes up to her and she goes, "It's been a while," and she's got the long hair. To me, that's it's kind of like the bang theory that you have, John, with like when people are younger, they have bangs.
Yeah.
When
Yep.
Sabine was younger, she had the shorter hair, and now she has the longer hair, like she's grown out her hair. It's been a while because it takes a
You don't
while to
think
grow
it's
long hair.
you don't think it's like it's I'm getting back into it. I got to get back into my look sort of thing. Like,
I didn't grab the image to throw up on the screen, but I remember the image itself. It looked like that mural was in the background when she
okay.
was standing there talking to Ahsoka. So to
Yeah.
me, it was very reminiscent of the end of Rebels,
Yeah.
more than, hey, she's seeing her now.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, and we're gonna get into some of the interviews with Dave Filoni and Rosario Dawson from the Empire piece. Empire magazine has sort of it feels like it's taken over. I feel
They're
like
slow
Empire.
dripping stuff per usual. They have a bunch of stuff, but they're like breaking it up.
Yeah, but it seems like it used to be Variety got this one, and then Empire got this one, EW got this one. If it seems like Empire is the one that gets all the stuff now. At least it feels that way. I
Mm.
don't know, but
Hmm.
we'll get to those in a bit. But let's just take a look at some of the images that were in the Empire piece and just briefly touch on them. And for our audio listeners, I'm sure you're familiar with the images, but we'll try to explain them in much detail as we can. So, whatever
Sure. Which
ones.
one do you want to kick off with?
Well, let's go with Ray Stevenson. I still it's still yeah it
Heartbreaking.
makes me feel a little sad that he's not going to get to see the reaction to his live action performance in Star Wars. Obviously, he's done voice work for Star Wars,
Hmm.
but I'm really excited to see what he brings to the table. But again, it really brings that weird, eerie feeling of like when I saw like The Dark Knight and you
Or
see
Carrie
Heath Ledger on
Fisher, yeah.
screen. Yeah, or Carrie Fisher, and you're just like, that person's not here anymore. Like it's
Hmm.
so crazy. But these look really like it looks like this show was beautifully shot. I like that we're focusing heavily on the characters here, and there's a lot of mystery around these 2 characters. I don't know exactly what they're going to be all about. Clearly, they're villains of some sort, soldiers for Thrawn. But I think there's probably like a lot of Dave Filoni type of characters. There's probably more layers to this onion. What do you think?
Yeah, I always love seeing new bad guys. I know there was a lot of kind of, I wouldn't call it drama. I would say back and forth discussion online this week, specifically about Ray Stevenson's character because he is a missionary that has survived Order 66. He's an old Jedi that survived it and is now doing other things. And I know a lot of people were questioning that, being like, how many Jedi survived Order
Yeah.
66? Because it seems to be their fallback right now, with Reva and a bunch of other characters where you're like, how many of these people have made it through? But look, that's a natural question as a Star Wars fan because you know a certain way for so long, and then all of a sudden they're like, well, this person got through the cracks. Oh, this person. But you also have to remember how big the Star Wars universe is. And just because Order 66 happened, that doesn't mean people weren't outside those kind of areas where the Empire was reaching it so far and where their stormtroopers were, where, you know, they could be hunted down. Maybe he went into hiding, and I'm sure we'll know more of that. But I know some people were kind of like, how many times are they gonna kind of hint at this, that someone's left over?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that's the only explanation currently why someone with force sensitivity or Jedi training and powers would still exist at this time period, which is after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think what the trouble with that is, the whole original trilogy thing, where it really was sold to us from George Lucas that, you know, the last of the Jedi is Luke. You know, he's the one, the return of the
And
Jedi.
that's what people were saying. They were like, so then Yoda just lied?
Or either Yoda lied or Yoda didn't know, which doesn't
Right.
look good either choice you make about Yoda. So it's tricky, and I get that. That's why I think it will be good for them to, especially with anything based around Jedi or the Force, to take these stories away from the original trilogy, so we're not
Mhm.
having to retwist how we take in certain quotes and stuff like that. Preserve it how it sort of was intended. And we are with, you know, mangled, unless Indy tanks, but hopefully that's not the case. All right, so what else do we have for images?
We have Hera.
Oh, yep, there we go, with a Mon Calamari in the back, it looks like.
Mhm.
A lot of people said they had issues with how Hera looks, but I think she looks great.
I think she looks good too. I think we learned pretty quickly from The Mandalorian that obviously characters that are transferring or making that transition from animated to live action aren't going to look exactly like their animated counterpart.
Mhm.
But I think this is a perfectly good take. I think the way they've worked, uh, you know, these types of aliens and creatures into live action is to cover the pieces that are connected, right? It's a hat that she's putting on, and then they're kind of, which I know Hera wears that, but I think that was a smart way of moving these people into live action better because they don't have to worry about, is there the proper separation, or like how does that makeup hold up?
Right.
But I think she looks great, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead is awesome. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think we're honestly like blessed to have her in Star Wars.
Yeah. What else we got?
We have this shot of Ahsoka.
Oh, yes.
She loves
Very
that
cool.
cross-armed stance.
Loves it.
That's
Yeah.
loves.
Didn't she do like a very casual one in Book of Boba Fett where she's like leaning on a tree?
She, I think, mostly almost every shot we've seen of her in the show and or out like this from magazines, she's got her arms crossed.
And you know what's cool about that? Like, I've seen some comparisons of mannerisms, and granted, this show's not out yet, but we've seen a few scenes of her already in live action, thanks to Mando and Book of Boba Fett, where she is reiterating things the animated Ahsoka did in terms of mannerisms. So, and of course, because it's Dave Filoni, you know, if someone else was doing the show and he wasn't involved, you probably don't get that. But I think you could probably make the safe argument that Ahsoka means more to Dave Filoni than any Star Wars character, just because he was involved with her creation, and it all stemmed from George Lucas wanting Anakin to have a Padawan. So I think they've nailed it, and you could tell, and we'll get into this in a bit when we get to her quotes, Rosario Dawson, how committed she really is to this. It goes deeper than I'm becoming Ahsoka, I want to understand the character. Like, no, she really like dug deep into this to really nail everything right. And you could tell she put a lot of work into it. And it seems to be paying off. And I hope that that comes to fruition in the full scope of the show.
Yeah, and people in the chat, including Danny Chibigan89, what up, Danny, pointed out that her Leiku do look better, which they had brought this up at Celebration, that they had heard everybody's comments and heard the critiques and reworked the headpiece, which before I think it was foam, and then isn't it this time around it's not foam?
I know
It's
they had,
more than that?
yeah, they have physical versions, but I believe they also have digital versions of it
Mhm.
too for fight scenes,
Fight
and so,
scenes,
so
yeah.
they can move around and not look like they're bending or cracking, you know.
Yeah, they definitely look obviously longer than the ones we saw in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, no, she looks great, and I look forward to seeing more of her. Now, do we have another image beyond the Inquisitor, or is the Inquisitor the last one?
We do. The last one
Oh,
we
right.
have is actually this one of Rosario Dawson fighting what looks like an Inquisitor and then someone else in kind of a CG suit. She is Sparta kicking them.
Yeah. So this is clearly that Inquisitor that everyone's like just sort of speculating about and wondering about, and we'll talk about that separately in just a moment. But I think the other one is that droid that we see her sort of like take out.
Oh, yeah. She like stabs him through the back.
Yeah, I think it's that character.
Oh, that's a good call. That's a very
Yeah.
good call.
I mean, I could be wrong. That could be an alien. It could be a lot of things, but it seems like they've used that character, that droid-looking character, in a few different of the promotional materials. So I think that might be the case there. But yeah, it's a cool shot. It's always cool because this reminds me of the like behind the scenes making of Attack of the Clones or Revenge of the Sith. Obviously, because of the blue screen, but like George Lucas really invited people in to see like how a lot of the scenes were filmed, especially the stuff on Kamino with Jango Fett. So this reminds me of that nice little let's invite the fans in and show them how we make the sauce. I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I actually quite enjoy it before a show comes out. I know they save this stuff usually for the gallery or stuff after the fact, but getting a little peek into it, so fans can get an idea of what went into making this thing, I think is important, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, we heard so much about it at Celebration about how much work Rosario Dawson was putting in for the show and like how much stunt work specifically in hours a day. What were they doing? Like 4 to 6 hours a day of working out and like
Yeah.
doing these fight scenes. Her and Natasha, right? We're doing them together.
Yeah, and sword training separately.
Yeah.
Yeah. In addition to everything else, makeup for multiple hours for her. Like I wonder like if I played Ahsoka or somebody where it's like you need to be in makeup for 3 to 4 hours every day. I'd be like, can I just go home and sleep in this and then show up tomorrow?
Right.
I
Half
want
of
to
it's
sit in
falling
a
off.
chair while someone's delicately painting my face. I don't have that kind of patience. So she
I
definitely.
do. Yeah. And I appreciate how it seems like since The Mandalorian, especially, they've given more of a shout out to like stunt coordinators and stunt people, performers, because they do so much work. Like, I think one of the craziest things about the Oscars is that they have no stunt category. Like, that's insane to me that they've
I
never
agree.
had a stunt category in
Yeah.
major award shows,
Yeah.
because a lot of the coolest scenes and shots that people are like, oh, this is like the best shot in cinema, is not the actor, it's a stunt person.
Right.
So, I just hope that with this show as well, they give some spotlight to those people like they do so well with The Mandalorian.
Yeah. And they could probably even do more so with that. So I think people like general audiences like what? Pedro Pascal wasn't there? What? I can't believe it.
Right.
It's diehards now, of course. All right. So the Inquisitor. Let's briefly just touch on this. I have thoughts that are pretty linear. I think just like with the Jedi surviving, I think maybe some Inquisitors fell through the cracks too. I don't think they necessarily all got wiped out, and Thrawn either recruited them from the fall of Palpatine or, what have you. But I think there's nothing more to it than that. I don't think this is a flashback, because it looks like it's modern day Ahsoka fighting the Inquisitor in the last image we just looked at. And I don't, there's a lot of theories, and I had a joke tweet saying, if the TFA first teaser was any indication, this is clearly Luke Skywalker. And it blew up, and it's like, I love how the dumb joke tweets sometimes take off, but people have real theories about this, and I think the most popular I've seen is people think it's Barriss Offee. I'm taking the route James often takes. I think it's just another Inquisitor we don't know yet. What do you think?
I think it is too. I don't think it's someone that is coming from, I think as fans, we're constantly looking for those connections. We've been trained to look for them, whose mom is who's, how is this person connected to Luke Skywalker? What does this mean? Were they at this event? I think sometimes we just need to experience things a little bit more and just let them happen. I know that speculation is obviously the fun part of Star Wars, but I don't think everything needs to be super connected.
Yeah, and I know, Barriss Offee turned away from the way, but it would just seem to be one of those like, here's the big reveal, and takes her helmet off, and there's Barasoff, and people are like, oh my god, and general audiences are like, I don't know who that is. Okay.
Frank said something interesting in the comments, which I'm going to give him a shout out. Awesome job, Frank. He said, what if Ezra's the Inquisitor?
Oh, I would not like that.
I don't think I'd like that either, but it would be shocking. It would be like Luke Skywalker showing up.
I'm getting more and more less into the idea of good guys turning bad, especially Ezra. Like, especially after we talked to Taylor Gray and he just like told us how much he loves Ezra and what he's all about and his heart and everything. It'd be like Luke Skywalker turning evil. I don't like the idea of Ezra turning bad. So I think it's fun. This is the stuff that I always loved.
But could it be something that Dave Filoni would do?
No, I don't think so. Do you?
You don't think so? You don't think Dave Filoni would just want everybody to be crying?
Oh, I don't think so. I think Dave Filoni likes happy endings and hopeful.
He's talked about hope. He said it's all about that, and that's what George always says. Make it hopeful.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think it's Barasoffy though, but if people are right, then good for them on the call. I see a lot of people clearly think that online and in the chat and in articles and that sort of thing. So we'll see. But yeah, I think it's a random Inquisitor. We'll have to see what James thinks about it, but I would imagine he thinks the same. But it's cool that we're getting that because they're doing that thing where we're leapfrogging the original trilogy with some characters and, Inquisitors, it could be, the 12th brother or who knows what it is. But either way, we're getting another Inquisitor in Star Wars beyond Rebels and comics and Obi-Wan Kenobi and that sort of stuff. And we're getting it post the fall of the Empire, which will be interesting to see because anytime we've seen like the remnants of the Empire in like the early Mando stuff where we saw the old stormtrooper helmets on the stakes and stuff, it makes everything feel more connected, and I kind of like that.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, anything else on the Inquisitor?
I don't think so. I'm pretty open to like leaving it in the mystery of who it could be. I don't really have any theories.
Then why don't we see if we have any super chats?
We do have some super chats. So we're going to kick it off with Semper Fi Danny. What up, Danny? It's also Mark's birthday today.
Oh, happy
birthday, Mark.
Yes.
Danny, I know you're from Canada, so I hope you're doing well up there. We're getting some of your smoke down here. And it's been a wild couple of days. Danny asks, well, first of all, thanks for the super chat. She says, TRB should have a deep dive discussion one day on the good and bad of Star Wars shipping culture and fanfic culture. I have thoughts. Would love to hear yours. Do you think Jason Syndulla appears in Ahsoka? First of all, I would love to do a shipping conversation. I don't know if John and James would love to do it, but I would love to have it. So that's definitely something we could do. Second part of that, I think he will show up. He has to. You can't have Hera there and then just like kind of never mention or show her son. Right? What do you think, John?
Yeah, I agree. I think it'd be a little strange because why introduce him in the epilogue for Rebels and then do this big new giant next step for the story and then just like Mutt Williams him like it seems like they're doing with Indiana Jones. I don't know if Shia LaBeouf's in the new one or not, but like he had a son and he's grown up and now all of a sudden he's like, where is he? Is he running an auto mechanic shop? So I think we'll see Jason Syndulla also, and that'll be the way to sort of give us a little bit of Kanan in Ahsoka without needing Freddie to come back because clearly he has no interest.
Unless he's lying, as we've seen with Lars and Liam Neeson. I'm not saying Freddie is. I'm just saying in general.
Freddie's
I take everybody's comments with a pinch of cinnamon, like we like to say on the show, because I don't know. They've all ended up lying.
Well, Freddie, like, I agree.
Except Katie Sackhoff. She literally just said, I have an NDA. I can't talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Freddie, to me, seemed like he was just firing off raw. He was just like, dude, no, like, enough. He's like, oh my God. He's like, I didn't even want to be in episode 9. Dave Filoni begged me to do the voice, and I did it in my bathroom.
He doesn't hold back. He really doesn't, as we've seen. Like, he has nothing to hide.
I don't want to say he seems grumpy, but he just lays it all out there. He's
I think he's heard it all.
He's over the PR nonsense. He's over
Uh-huh.
like having been a teen idol and all that stuff. He's just so done with any of that. So when he does talk about it, I think he's just keeping it real. Now, again, maybe we're wrong, and I like that we don't know. I like that it hasn't been spoiled. Like, nope, there's no Kanan, or yes, there is Kanan. We don't know, and I like that.
Right.
But I think getting Jason Syndulla would be cool because you do sort of get that. Obviously, tie to continue on the legacy of Kanan through his son. So I think it'd be cool. I don't know, why not?
Awesome. Thanks, Danny. And she said in the
Thanks,
comment that
Danny.
it's not Mark's birthday. I guess he's just the same age as Dave Filoni. So I misunderstood. But happy birthday whenever your birthday is, Mark.
I retract my happy birthday.
I don't retract it. I just add it to whenever it was. All right. Next up is David Probus. What up? Thank you so much, David. We like to call him Probi-Wan Kenobi here on the show. He said, just got to show a little love to TRB. You guys are awesome. You're
Thanks,
awesome.
David. You're awesome.
Hope you're doing well, man.
Spice Runner Graybeard. Probi-Wan Kenobi.
Look at that pic. He's looking good in that.
I know.
Sharp.
It looks like his beard looks like layered. It's great. Great work.
He's looking sharp.
Yeah. Thanks,
Freezy.
buddy.
Our buddy Freezy's up. Freezy2324. Thank you so much for the super chat. He said, Lacey, do you foresee Rosario doing a bunch of cons after Ahsoka comes out? Freezy, she's already doing cons now. I see her at cons all the time. I don't know. Maybe I follow her on Twitter, and she was at Celebration, definitely, obviously, but she's done a bunch of stuff before that. She did like a bunch of fan expos, and I know she's been to New York Comic Con a bunch of times, especially with the Marvel stuff.
Mm-hmm.
She's doing shows all the time, so I think she'll do more. Absolutely. But she's definitely been to a bunch. The other cool thing she does is if she's at the same show with Ashley Eckstein, they always get together and do like social videos and they take photos together, which is really cute. So definitely check out her social because she's out and about.
And she
What do you
would
think, John?
make a ton of money doing autographs. And
she already is making a ton of money.
But I think once the show comes out and if it's good, increase that a bit. That's what means.
Oh, okay. Didn't get that. Can you do one more time? Okay. And last but not least, for now, is Matt Lawless. Thank you so much for the super chat, Matt. He said, do you think we'll see Thrawn before episode 6, following the Mando theme with Gideon? So supposedly, from the late Ray Stevenson, there's 8 episodes. I think he had said in his interview at Celebration. So he's saying, will we see Thrawn before episode 6?
Yes.
I think so too. They wouldn't tell you that Thrawn's in the show yet if they weren't trying to get it out of the way.
Yeah. And let's not forget, when you think about Moff Gideon, that's, a new villain. We had to establish a brand new character with Mando and build him up first and then introduce the villain. Whereas Ahsoka is one of the most fleshed out characters. You don't need to focus so much time on her character growth before you introduce your villain. And on top of that, Thrawn is a well-known established villain already. I think he's going to be there right immediately. And like when you see the Lucasfilm logo and it's all in red, like his eyes, I think he's going to be heavily used early and often.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if it's like just the shot of him walking from behind, like they're going to get him out of the way.
Yeah.
Set it up.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Matt. And guys, just as a reminder, send in your questions now in the chat with hashtag Ask the Resistance.
Yes. All right. Now, our next story is still from the Empire coverage of Ahsoka, and it has more to do with where Ahsoka is from a mindset perspective, and I guess a relationship perspective in terms of friends and who she feels connected to, and again, that sort of parallel path she's taking alongside the journey of being a Jedi. And, obviously her denouncing it, but the first episode she's introduced in The Mandalorian, it's called The Jedi, and it's clear Filoni wants to make that blurry in terms of potentially Ahsoka fully re-embracing the idea of being a Jedi. And do you want me to read the quote from Filoni, Lacey?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So Filoni about Ahsoka said she's a wanderer at this point and is in a lot of ways wary of any organization. as such because of the power that comes with it as a group. She walks a path that basically died out a long time ago, and there aren't many like her left, if any. So that's a lonely thing. What is that life like? If you're a loner, you have a very small circle of friends. What is it like then when you try to open back up? So what do you gather from that quote?
I mean, to me, that's pretty straightforward. I think we got that from basically the Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, that she was on her own. She like shows up and then fades into the background. I think we all know that Ahsoka's been very hurt. She's been hurt by the Jedi. She's been hurt by what happened to Anakin.
Mhm.
And she's dealing with that trauma, probably not in the healthiest way, but in separating herself from people that could maybe get hurt, that could leave, that could put her in a position where she is once again hurt. And I think
Mhm.
normally a lot of us do that. When we don't want to deal with something anymore, we tend to run away. And I'm not saying she's necessarily running away, but to me, it seems like she's trying to manage what she's been through in the best way that she can, which is trying to help others by not sticking to one place too long, not putting herself in a dangerous situation, but also just kind of going through what's happened with her while also
Yeah.
trying to make things right.
Yeah, that's a good question. And you know what I keep forgetting is it doesn't mean it's correct, but I think it is the Hollywood Reporter's report from maybe even almost 2 years ago that Hayden Christensen's going to be playing Anakin in the series.
He's listed
Um,
on like the production stuff, but I don't know if that's a fan changed
So
thing or official.
I hope if he does appear, it's not in flashbacks. Not that I don't like flashbacks, but I don't like how they didn't de-age him in Obi-Wan Kenobi. And I don't know if that was a budgetary thing because they had the markers on his face in the behind the scenes stuff. I don't know. I would just like to see the Anakin we see at the end of Return of the Jedi, obviously in the special editions and beyond.
I wonder what the reasoning was for not de-aging him. If I could ask a question to like a Hal Hickle, I'd probably ask that. Like, hey, what was the choice there? Just curious.
I agree because
Because they literally did what they did with Luke. They've done what they did with what we've seen so far with Indiana
yeah,
Jones.
yeah,
Why wouldn't you de-age him? Like, I don't know if it's maybe a little insulting to say, hey, we got to de-age you. But at the same time, like, we're all older than who we used to be.
yeah. He filmed the time frame of that scene was like 21 years ago in Hayden's life. That's more than half his life ago. Like I'd be like, dude, de-age the hell out of me. Let's go. I want to see my younger self. Let's do it, man.
Ugh, I don't. I made some bad choices.
What does that mean?
Like hair dye choices, fashion choices. I don't want
Did
to
you
de-age
get a
myself.
regrettable face tattoo that you've since had removed?
No.
Oh, okay.
I went blonde once. It was not a good choice.
You did?
Yeah.
You were blonde.
Not on purpose. So my older sister did hair and I went to get highlights like any normal young early 20s person, and she turned me blonde. And I was like, I just wanted highlights. And she was like, well, this is you now. Typical older sibling, like deal with it.
So fair-skinned, young Gilleran plus
I looked
blonde.
sickly.
Did you? Yeah, I was gonna say. Oh wow.
I looked
Okay.
completely see-through at that point.
People are like, get that girl an umbrella immediately.
Like, do you need some what's
Uh,
like vitamin D? Like what, I don't know, what would be this thing that you get someone that they're very pale?
a shade,
Suntan lotion.
a 10. Yeah. That. Yeah. I don't even know what we were talking about, but that.
Ahsoka being a wanderer.
Yeah.
She's kind of like me, when I'm delightfully unhinged.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. No comment further, but I wonder if it's gonna be one of those things that we kind of thought was gonna happen in Obi-Wan Kenobi, where he's detached and he keeps reaching out for Qui-Gon and he's not showing up. Like, is Anakin gonna appear to Ahsoka and help her take like the full next step back into becoming a Jedi?
I feel like this is the thing that you've thrown out with every show. Like, so and so's gonna appear to so and so, and they're gonna make them feel better about blank. And I think that this might be the case that actually does happen.
All right. All right.
Because this
Let's
one
clip this
actually
out.
does make sense.
Yeah, let's clip this one out. So yeah, I think that'd be really cool. It seems sort of like nothing new with this quote, like you were saying. Like we sort of got that with what we saw with, especially more so Mando with Ahsoka than Book of Boba Fett. Because Book of Boba Fett, I think she was more approachable and friendly, whereas
I
in
feel like with Luke, she was very standoffish. Like she was like, and he was like, "I need your help," and she was like, "You could do it. You got it. You got this. I'm out."
maybe, yeah, but I feel like with the episode of the Jedi from Mando, it was sort of like, where is she at right now? Can't really like she starts her appearance by like beheading someone with her two lightsabers. Like she's being
Hot,
the stealth assassin,
so
and then
hot.
it was really cool, very cool. That episode, has aged well for me. I really with Michael Biehn
I
and
loved it from the
everything.
moment it happened, and I feel like I was one of the few online that was like fully in on it, like fully
Yeah,
like this is the best.
yeah. Because you know what's funny? I went back recently and started rewatching some of Obi-Wan, and I've liked that more too.
I gotta go back and rewatch Obi-Wan. I want to go back and watch Book of Boba Fett too.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. Especially the later stuff when it gets like kind of wonky and fun. But all right, so Ahsoka the Wanderer, and then the other quote being, which seems to be that theme that I've been talking about, where Filoni wants to make sure people don't feel like they have a lot of homework to do to get into this series.
He's said this a lot. Like this is one of those. What was the thing that happened with Rise of Skywalker? Satisfied. They kept being like, "Oh, we want people to be satisfied," and they said it so much that you were like, "This has to be on some like outline somewhere of like things to say." Yeah, would people be satisfied?
I just
That
think
just
you're gonna
sounded
get
like
that.
I just made that sound like Cartman from South Park. That was not JJ whatsoever.
Are you satisfied, man?
Satisfied. Um. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so the thing where Dave Filoni is talking about how, oh yeah, people can just join in at this point. Like I feel like they keep reiterating that so that people don't tune out. Because I've already talked to I think about 3 different people that aren't Star Wars fans that have heard of the show. They can't name the person, by the way. They're like, it starts with an A. I don't the person with the head thing, and I'm like, oh yeah, Ahsoka. They've all said, I don't know, it just seems like a lot like I have to watch to get there, or I'm not
Yeah,
gonna fully understand it.
right.
So I feel like this is a very specific talking point to that general audience that they've lost since the beginning of The Mandalorian. I feel like The Mandalorian kicked it off and you had all these people that had never watched it before. And then as The Mandalorian went on and they brought in people from different shows and stuff, those people have kind of tuned out because they're like, okay, this is more than I want to jump
Yeah,
into.
yeah. I bet there had to have been some sort of like section of a meeting of the minds when they were like, how are we gonna get all Star Wars fans in on this series? And they're like, Dave, you got to make sure you go out there and say like, you don't need to watch all of Clone Wars, you don't need to watch all of Rebels, maybe season 4, even though there's no chance he believes that. But you want to make sure people aren't like, I gotta watch 7 seasons and then 4 of that. Like, I'll wait for the Acolyte or Skeleton Crew or something that's not tied
Which
to
the Acolyte has supposedly wrapped filming. That's another piece that we're not really talking about tonight, but it did happen.
which is great news because, and I'm not sure of how, do shows do post-production during a strike? I don't know what that's like, but
Depends if they have reshoots.
it's good news that they have wrap filming, of course, and Skeleton Crew's done, so we know that that's going to be coming out. And the other thing that we didn't really touch on about Ahsoka's coming out on August 23rd.
Oh my God. I should have brought that up to the top. My bad.
So Wednesday, August 23rd. So they're sticking to the Wednesday thing. And if they do one episode per week, that puts us at October 11th for the season finale. Now we'll get to why we're saying season in a minute. But do you think they're going to do, because remember Andor was delayed and then they did 3 episodes at once? Was it 3 or 2? There was 3.
I think they kicked it off with 2 and then they did 1 that following Friday. Like they did the Obi-Wan thing where they did a couple and then 1 more and then they went back to 1 a week.
I think we're getting just the 1 episode, so I do think it's going to be October 11th. What do you think?
I agree. I think they're doing 1 a week. I think Disney and a lot of studios are hurting right now because their content is being delayed or pushed back or reworked. due to the writing strike, which could be potentially a SAG acting strike this coming
It's
week.
not good. Yeah.
If they just paid people, we wouldn't have to deal with this if they just paid people accordingly. But that being said, I think they're going to spread content out the best way they can.
Yeah. And then, I think James said this in his short. If you haven't watched James's short yet, he sort of gave his initial reactions to the new 30-second teaser and the schedule and stuff. So check that out.
Which we said August, by the way. It's happening August. We said end of August.
August, yep. And then if it ends mid-October, that gives breathing room to kick off Skeleton Crew in the fall and do that, which I believe is also filling the Mandoverse 8-episode mold. So that will probably have its run to end calendar year 2023. And then next year we have at least the Acolyte. And then it might get a little dicey for a bit. I don't know. Because with what's going on with the halt on Andor, and that's a big production, including a big post-production. We'll see. But we're focusing on the now, which is we have 2 shows ahead of us, actually 3. So that's a very good thing. But in terms of this, we were talking about season 1. But before that, they did ask him about George Lucas's approval, whether he would be approved, and Filoni joked a bit about that.
Yeah, what did he say?
Did you see that? No. So he said it's almost like this is Filoni when he was asked about what will George Lucas think about Ahsoka, and Filoni said it's almost like when you turn in a big paper at school. It's like here it is. Fingers crossed it gets a good grade. So, and you
I have to admit, he definitely talked to George throughout the process, and or maybe some of the ideas he had, he's talked to George. I don't think that Dave and George don't talk. Yes, and he's probably already seen it.
I bet I wouldn't shock me if Lucas watched it and he's like, I would add a couple of creatures in the corner over there. And he's like, oh,
I agree with George on that. They don't have ever enough creatures in these shows.
Yeah. And by the way, if you aren't following the legend Phil Tippett yet, follow him on Twitter, because he still shares anecdotes about how creatures were named and old concepts he had come up with and stuff. Like the living legend Phil Tippett, the man who made all the awesome old puppets and stop motion. I mean, you know him, everyone knows him. Make sure you follow him for he's right there giving all this cool little nuggets on Twitter. And for people who are like, oh, I'm so done with social media, that's one person to stick around for.
And he was like a shining star in the Light and Magic documentary.
Oh, very emotional too, and very candid about his mental health and stuff, which meant a lot. Yeah. All right, so we said season 1 for a reason. Season 2, we're looking at that word manifesting again. So what do you think about Rosario Dawson talking about that?
I love this for her. I mean, this is the whole reason she's Ahsoka, right? Like, someone put it out there, then she put it out there, and then it happened. So I'm all for this. I'm a big person in putting things out there in the universe and putting that energy that you want returned to you. I've seen it happen time and time again of, hey, I would love for this to happen, and then it happened. Which I don't know if John's going to share an example of that. That's going to be happening soon. But yeah, no, I hope this happens for her. If the show's really good, I want more seasons. If it's, not good, I'm hoping that they wrap it up in a way that does the character justice.
Yeah, I agree. And like you say, she got the role by manifesting and the boss logic art and all that stuff. And it wasn't one of those things where you're like, oh, I hate that person just forced their way into this role. It's like it seems like they got the right person for Ahsoka. So I'm glad that the art was there and that she got behind it and she rallied for it. It's just this really cool, organic, fun thing that happened. And we got to sort of see it manifest literally before our eyes each step of the way. Because I think, what was it, 2019 or 2018 or 2019 when she talked about that artwork or something?
I think so, but man, I'm just such a person that believes that anybody that wants something should go after it. Life's too short. Just do what makes you happy.
I agree with that. So she said, yeah, she's putting that out in the universe. And
her and Ewan McGregor's over there like, excuse me, Me first.
I know. True. And then there was another quote where Dawson said, "We're joking about it, but I'm manifesting it because I feel like I helped Dave Filoni mastermind and no, I helped Dave Filoni manifest this role. So I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm willing. I got my ice packs ready to go for season 2." I like that she like alludes to the fact that like she's getting a little older. She like needs ice packs for her knees or whatever it is. But she's
Brian
killing it
Ward
across
does
the
make a
board.
good point in the chat. He said, "So I guess she doesn't die then."
I thought the same thing, but you know what, Brian? I had all these thoughts about all these series, like how will Mando end? How will Skeleton Crew end? How will Ahsoka end? And I had assumed, I think I had said this, I thought Ahsoka was going to die in her own series because,
You've said this about basically every character that you think they're going to die.
well, yeah, because if you're Ahsoka Tano, you're not going to live forever, and we hear her voice at the end of episode 9, which every other character in those voices is dead. Don't you
Correct.
think that she would go out in her own show as opposed to like a book somewhere or like
I'm
off
mostly
screen?
joking about the fact that you're like, "Oh, that person's going to die. Oh, that person's dead. That person's dying too."
But now I think because of the movie, I think
Sure.
Ahsoka's going to be in that movie. So I think like Filoni like released the pressure of you can't talk about the future because we know that movie is going to be the culmination. So if she wants to say a season 2, it doesn't have as much impact as it did before we found out about that movie. It would have been a bigger story today if that movie wasn't on the horizon. So
Right, which it is. It kind of
yeah.
relieves the pressure of any of these characters dying, and then also puts everybody back on the table.
Yeah. And they could all die in the movie.
But I'm saying like any one of these people could die before the movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Puts them all back on the table. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then there were some other quotes about her thoughts on Ahsoka just in general, saying like she's not fearless, but she never hesitates. And I like that quote a lot because I like when there's a character and you're like, they're fearless, they're just gonna do everything. It's like, no, like typically, especially someone who maybe has walked away from the Jedi a bit, you know, she is going to have some fears. And as much as like Yoda would say, like, fear is the path to the dark side, I think even every Jedi sort of has a little bit of fear in them that they control. And I like that she says she's not fearless, but she never hesitates, meaning like she will do everything she can for the people she loves. And it goes back to that first story we talked about where she's a loner, she's a wanderer, like where does she belong? She has this tight-knit group of friends. I think this part of this journey in this show, because you know how Filoni loves like that Star Wars family, you know, coming together, found family element.
Yeah.
It's going to be her realizing that she isn't alone and that the Rebels Ghost crew is her family. And I think that's going to help her character arc in this series because it's hard to create new character arcs for a character that may have appeared on screen, including animation, of course, more than almost any character in Star Wars. And I think that's the avenue they're gonna take here. So, do you have any other thoughts on anything else she touched on about the character?
I don't. I think everything's pretty straightforward, especially after we sat through that panel at Celebration where they kind of reiterated all this, that where Ahsoka's head's at, where the character is going, what can we expect. I don't think it's going to be any different than the Ahsoka that we've seen so far.
Right on. All right. All right, let's see if we have any other super chats, and then we will go from there into Ask the Resistance.
So we do. First up is Luke. What up, Luke? Count Pepto.
Count
Hey, buddy.
Pepto.
How's it going? He said, "What's up, TRB? How are you guys? Hope you guys are doing well. Is there anyone who hasn't been revealed yet that you hope will show up in Ahsoka?" I have an open mind. Anakin would be a good one. I have an open mind. I don't have anybody in particular. I'm just going to be excited for anybody to show up. I know that like we've obviously seen a hologram of Ezra, but I'm excited to see Ezra in person. I would say that's kind of the reveal I'm waiting for. If he still is alive, if he's still around, because right now we only seen him from the past, basically.
Yeah.
But thank you for your super chat.
Yeah, thanks, Luke.
Next is Mickey. What up, Mickey? Such a glamorous photo. Thanks for the super chat. He said, "Hey guys, I would kill for an Ahsoka flashback featuring Kenobi and Anakin during the Clone Wars. Would you be down for that?" John, I'm gonna let you take this one. What do you think?
I don't know. I mean, if they gave it to me, I'd be like, oh, this is amazing. You know, I can't wait to talk about this tonight or whatever.
With you and two, you're saying?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
be amazing to see. I don't know that I want them to go that route because there's already so many characters in this show, and we've
Right.
seen with the Mandalorian. Oh wow, we only have 2 episodes left. You know, the 8 episodes,
Right.
and they're not. I mean, unless Ahsoka has really long episodes, they're 35 minutes, 40 minutes. There's a lot to do. I know you could probably put one scene in there, but I think it would feel weird if there was just like one scene showing like Anakin and Obi-Wan and a de-aged Ahsoka with Rosario. And plus, would they not do the de-aging again that they didn't do in Obi-Wan? Like, you would need to like really put a lot of thought into what they would do there. So I think it'd be really cool, Mickey. Don't get me wrong. I like that you put that out there. I just don't know if they have the room for it and how it would come across if it was just like this one thing. I feel like there would be need to be a purpose to show that flashback, and I would need to be sold on what that purpose is. What do you think?
I don't care if there's a purpose. I feel like Ewan is just so excited to be Obi-Wan again, and so is Hayden for Anakin,
Is that
that
enough?
that's enough for me. I'm like,
Really?
give them the paycheck, put them in front of the camera, let them have their moment, and especially for them to be together with Ahsoka is like such a full circle moment for Clone Wars fans and just like that team of people that brought that to life. It would be awesome. It would be very cool.
They should get Ewan and Hayden, but redub the voices with James Arnold Taylor and Matt Lanter.
You're so dumb. Stop.
And Ashley Eckstein. No.
All right, Mickey. Thank you
Mickey.
so much.
Yeah.
Now we're going to head into a super chat from Andrew Staley. Thank you so much for the super chat, Andrew. He said, Indy question. Do you have any plans to see Indy 5 yet? I've got my ticket for opening night in an IMAX. Thanks. I don't have any plans currently. John, do you have any plans to see Indy?
I do have plans to see Indy.
Because I know you were manifesting seeing it in like a really cool way.
Yeah, I was. Am I doing this right now?
I think it's a perfect time to do it. You got a question about it?
Yeah, I guess we just got to say it here. I was gonna save it for Monday because I wanted James to be here
It's
for it.
okay.
But
Don't leave him hanging.
TRB has gotten its first official invite to a live world premiere, and we were given 2 tickets to go see Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny on the world premiere in Hollywood and the red carpet and all that stuff. And James and I will be representing TRB and going to the world premiere of Dial of Destiny next week. It happened very quickly. I was completely floored and shocked by it, and I'm very grateful that Lucasfilm thought of us and extended the invite to us. And I think it was one of those like immediate yeses, but we waited a bit before we responded because it was like
He tried to play it cool.
because I wrote it in the chat to the 2 of you guys, and I just like I used colorful language, and you were like, I don't know if this is good or bad.
Because with you, it's one or the other. It's never in between. It's always
And
something really
then-
good or something really bad.
And then when I saw it, I just couldn't believe it, and it was an immediate yes. So me and James are heading out there next week to go to the world premiere, walk the red carpet, go to the after party, maybe see Harrison Ford. I have no idea, but we're going to Dial of Destiny next week, and we'll have reactions out of the theater, of course. No spoilers, but we will talk about Indy. And I've actually been thinking about maybe doing some stuff on Patreon about the other Indiana Jones movies. I know I have my other podcast where I talk about it, but I think from TRB it'd be a good spot to talk about it too, especially Dial of Destiny. So yeah, me and James are going to LA. Lacey, I don't want to speak, for you as to why, you aren't one of the ones going.
It's not my turn.
It's not your turn. Yeah,
It wasn't my turn. I went to the Rise of Skywalker, which means, guys, next time it's my turn. Which, if it's the Daisy movie, or that's how it works when you have 3 people that are part of these things. You get 2 tickets.
True. And previously when I had gone to the premieres, it was invites that went to Star Wars Newsnet when I was over there. So this was the first time TRB has gotten the invite to go to a premiere. So it's a really big deal for us. It means a great deal, and it's an honor that we got invited to go. And we're going to make the best of it. We're going to do video coverage. We're going to check out Hollywood. We're going to try to find Carrie's star. We're going to go to Scum and Villainy maybe. Like, we're going to try to bring you into the experience like we always do. So thanks to everybody for constantly supporting us and allowing us to be recognized to be invited to such a really cool event, because I grew up on Indy, and you know, every time I'm sick I watch Indiana Jones movies, and I love Indy almost as much as I love Star Wars. So the fact that I don't think it's truly hit me yet, so the fact that I'm going to be there is pretty mind-blowing. So if you saw why I bought a fedora, that's why. I'm wearing a suit with a fedora. So I'm going to be like going in the spirit of Indy when he's off the archaeological clock. More of the formal Indy. So very excited.
Oh, and I'm not going because I'm having a baby.
Oh, though. So there it is. Wait, is that a public? Is that your first public?
No, it is.
Well, there you go. Yeah. So I was waiting for you to say something.
I knew. I was trying to make you feel awkward.
So tell the
people.
Tell the people everything you need to tell them.
I am expecting my second child in November, so I'm kind of hesitant to go traveling and stuff. So I was really excited for these guys to go, but I didn't want to like steal John's big moment. So.
No, I mean, that's we've
I'm
known
very
that news
excited.
for a while. And
Baby boy.
I think our patrons, at least some of our patrons, knew via one of our bi-monthly calls. But yeah, baby boy. So congrats again. So everyone doesn't think I'm just not caring. But you told me and James a while ago. Yeah, we've known for a while.
I did. I told them before celebration, basically, and it's been a wild couple of months. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why. Also because it's not my turn, but also because of that.
All right. Do we have any other super chats?
We do. So we have one from John Mitchell, which he accidentally sent the super chat, which thank you so much, and then sent it after the fact. So he said, Star Wars means so much to people that online it seems like people hate it, but it all comes from an insane amount of passion. And he said, yep, I meant that to be a super chat. I agree with you, John. I think oftentimes people get misunderstood online and people jump to conclusions online because they're so passionate about Star Wars. It's such a personal thing for a lot of people. I know I'm included in that you grow up with something and it just becomes a part of who you are, that anytime you feel like it's not being represented in that way, or people aren't connecting, I guess, in the way that you connect, it can get really personal, and people might take that not the best, most healthy way, but I understand why people get upset sometimes about Star Wars because it matters so much. And I think the creators know that too. Like Dave Filoni understands that. Jon Favreau understands that. But I guess my piece in this as well, John, is John Mitchell. Not John, also John, but John Mitchell, is to just meet people online with kindness. Like there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world all the time. So the best thing that you can do is, even if someone's coming at you with like really aggressive energy, they might just be having a bad day. Like meet them with kindness and you'd be surprised what ends up happening. That's what I've always done. Like I've been called some pretty terrible things online.
Oh,
and my response is always very much like, okay, have a great day.
I won't get into that. I've been put through the ringer. Thank you, John.
Yeah, awesome. And we do have a couple more. Thank you so much, Orion CC 1701 for the super chat. He said, tuned in late, but happy I'm here. Really appreciating Lacey's energy tonight. Unplugged manifesting. It's what I needed. Yo, it goes a far way. Thank you so much. Love you too, Johnny.
Oh, thank you.
I'm just going to give an example. So before I was even on this podcast with these guys, I saw, and I didn't realize it at the time, I saw pictures of John at The Last Jedi premiere. And I didn't know John. I was following him because he likes Star Wars and I like Star Wars, so it made sense. But I saw him at the premiere.
Was it a mutual follow situation?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Oh.
Why?
Back when we had like roughly the same follower count, I think.
All right. Maybe you need to manifest some followers. No, but seriously, I saw him at the premiere and I remember thinking like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's at the premiere. So when Rise of Skywalker rolls around, I'm going to be there. I don't know how I'm going to get there, but I'm going to be there. And 2 years later, I was on this podcast and there it is. I was on this podcast and I was going to the premiere. So I can't speak highly enough about like just putting yourself out there, going for what you want. And don't be afraid to ask. Like that's the big thing I've learned is like year of 2023, doing it for me. Like make sure you ask for things like if you need help with something or if you need to learn a new skill, like who are the people that you should sync up with? Because oftentimes people just want to help one another. People,
Right.
I go back to the kindness thing. People are nicer than you think they are. So awesome. Thank you so much for your super chat and your kind words. It really means a lot.
Thank you.
Freezy's back again. He's back again. Freezy, what up? He said, buy a drink for Harrison Ford at the Indie premiere. This is with this super chat. So cool. Congrats. Could you imagine buying a drink for what do you think he would order?
I don't know. Is Harrison Ford a drinker still?
I don't know, but he looks good. He looks really good.
For
his
80, he
age.
looks fantastic. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I feel like he doesn't a lot drink a lot.
So Ford was at the Rise of Skywalker premiere, and I didn't get a chance to see him. And then when I saw Clayton took a photo with him, I was like, damn it, why didn't he take me over there? So if I get a chance to meet Harrison Ford, I won't embarrass myself or say anything that he's heard a billion times.
Will you tell Bob Iger? This is take 2.
Yeah.
Make Solo 2 happen.
I'm gonna wear this pin on my suit still. But
for people that don't know, John froze like a deer in headlights when Bob Iger. So for weeks leading up to the Rise of Skywalker premiere, he's like, if I see Bob Iger, I'm gonna tell him. This is my John voice, by the way. I'm gonna tell him make Solo 2 happen, that we love it, blah blah blah. And I was like, okay. And literally, Bob Iger was 5 feet in front of me.
1 foot.
Okay, but I'm saying when I noticed him, he was like 5 to 8 feet in front of me, walking towards me because I'm standing in front of the door that goes to the theater. I get so elated. I was like, this is the moment. And I turn, and it's seriously, it was like the movies. It was like slow motion. I turn to John and I'm just like, and John is like,
well, here's why. He was
Nothing.
leaving like it was almost time to head in, and he was going to make a speech at one of the other theaters.
Excuses.
And he was flanked by these giant security guards.
Excuses.
It was a very intimidating situation, but I will say, if it happens again this time, I will not miss my chance. I will say, Bob, Hocus Pocus 3? Really? But no Solo follow-up? So we'll see. But that'd be cool, because I saw him also eating a quesadilla at the after party of the TLJ premiere. So maybe I will see Bob. Who knows?
I still can't get over. It was just, guys, the confidence chat prior to the I'm gonna say something. And then the moment came and went just like
it's
that.
It's like McLovin in the hallway on Superbad. He's like, it's 10:30.
What?
He's like, I'm gonna tell her what time it is. What? So maybe I'll see Bob and tell him what time it is. And it's makes Solo 2 happen time. But yeah, thank you, Freezy. Appreciate it.
So we're up on time here, but we can take a couple questions. So do you want to head into Ask the Resistance?
Let's go.
I've been wondering, what are midi-chlorians?
All right, me too, Anakin. Me too. I'm actually curious if midi-chlorians are ever going to be said again in Star Wars. We'll see. But all right, so let's get to a couple. Lacey, what do you got?
First up, we have Chibigon89, aka Danny. What up, Danny? She said, do you think we'll see other Force ghosts in Ahsoka? For example, Yoda. I'm gonna let you take this one, John.
I don't think so. I think we'll see Anakin, but I think that's it. And I think it'll be to keep his return and appearance feel special. Like he's the one who shows up. He's the one she needs to show up. What do you think?
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, I Force ghosts, we've had these conversations on the show before, that it's like it's a balance of like a balance of the Force, if you will, of what works and what doesn't, and you don't want to overdo it. And I think the way they did Yoda in The Last Jedi was perfect. I think even Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan was done really well. So I would hate for them to just do this crazy thing. However, I will kind of go against what I just said. Someone made a fan video after The Rise of Skywalker came out with all the ghosts. I loved it. I loved every second of it. So
atrocious.
Again, I just went against everything I just said, but at the same time, I know while I'm saying this of like, oh, they gotta have a balance. If they did it in a really cool way, even if it was fan servicey, I'd probably love it. You already answered, so we'll go to the next thing. I was gonna say, what do you think? But you already answered. All right.
What do you think of my answer? Did that change your answer or?
Mickey's back. Mickey's back. What up, Mickey? He says, sorry if you've answered this before, but which Star Wars book would you like to see adapted to a TV show? For me, it's Lost Stars. It could transcend fandom and be a big hit, I think. 100% Lost Stars. I gotta reread that, by the way.
I'm gonna go with, it's not canon, but I'm gonna go with the Plagueis novel.
Yeah, you
the
said
whole
that
thing.
before.
The whole thing. I think it'd be such a cool mini series to show how Palpatine, like we talk about everyone's like origin stories, seeing how Palpatine, like in canon, got to be the person he's become is very interesting to me. I think that's got to be something they're thinking about. And I know it's not a canon book, but I also know that I think Matt Martin has made it clear, and others have, if something is made in canon in one medium, they're not going to do the same telling in a different medium. So if it's Lost Stars is told in a novel, it's staying there. Now, like Ahsoka, they can do a follow-up in a different medium, but they won't retell a book. But I think with the Legends thing, like they have that Plagueis book, but they can still tell a Palpatine origin story, or how he became the evil person he is. I think people need to see that. And I know people say, oh, I'm sick of Palpatine, but I think if you tell that story, I think that's cool.
I'm still sick of Palpatine, so I'm one of those people that's like, no.
Well, whatever.
David Probus is back. What up, David? He said the writer's strike is still on. It absolutely is. If this affects new content, do you think that's going to compound the money issues that Disney is having with Disney Plus? How do they respond?
Oh,
pay your people. That's how they respond. Pay your people, and then the strike will be over. And from my understanding of what I've read and looked into with the writer strike in particular, I think the studios are losing between $30 and $40 million a day. If they just paid the people up front what it was, which is I think like $400 million, which obviously is a lot of money, but understandably a lot of money, this would have been over already. And by the time this is over, they're going to lose that much money already. What do you think, John?
How long was the 07 writer strike?
100 and something days, 117 days.
Oh, so like 4 months almost.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it goes on long, like we're not going to see the immediate effects of it, but like 2024 is going to be weird. Like think about in 2008.
They're already pushing movies back. Supposedly the new Spider-Man movie that just came out has obviously a sequel coming out next year. They've already taken the date out of their bios on Twitter. They supposedly are pushing. They haven't recorded people's lines yet.
Yeah, I think it's possible that new Star Wars movie could get pushed back too because of it. It's unfortunate because we're in this weird situation where, the movie theaters have come back, and granted, a lot of it's for sequels, reboots, and big franchises, sure, but people thought movie theaters in the middle of June 2020, people are like, movie theaters are dead. They're never going to
I was one
back.
of them. I totally thought that they were done.
I knew that they would come back because that experience is important for people. And now we're in a situation where like it just came back and now we're going to have this lull. It makes me nervous. So I don't know about Disney Plus. I think the bigger thing about Disney Plus is, let's not forget, a lot of the subscriber losses were in India based on like, I think it was Highlight or something like that they used to have. They used to have a live sports in the India version of Disney Plus that featured.
It was cricket.
Cricket. Yeah, and that went away, so they lost a lot of subs. So most of the subs they lost were in that market. It didn't have to do with like, oh, I don't like the Mandalorian and stuff. So I think Disney Plus will be okay. I think they have some work to do to improve their interface. I think it's a little choppy, and I don't like some of the way it operates. But when you look at like what Netflix is doing, which is constantly increasing their prices and going back against their sharing passwords is how it means love and all that crap that they said a few years ago.
Shareholders are fighting back. So the big thing was that people were like, will shareholders support the writers or will they support executives? And Netflix, as of soon, I think it was earlier this week or late last week, already said no on incentives packages for like top people at Netflix. The shareholders voted it down because of the writer strike. They basically were like, solve this problem or you're not going to get your bonuses and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and that's good. I mean, because I felt like Netflix has been slipping with content, and I feel like Disney has an opportunity to still be one of the stronger streaming services because it's still quite young.
I don't know.
Um,
Barbecue Showdown was pretty amazing.
yeah, but don't you feel like I know you're sort of joking, but
I do
don't
love
you
Barbecue
I
Showdown,
feel like
but
when I go to Netflix, it's like the bargain bin at Walmart of movies you've never heard of that are on sale for like $1.99.
I've been watching that Tim Robinson comedy show too because it's funny.
Yeah, that guy. I don't know. It's just like it's where I go to watch Seinfeld now, pretty much. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, David. I'm having hope that it's not going to hurt Disney Plus or their content decisions too much, especially because I think if they are going to pivot, they're going to lean heavily more into stronger IPs like Star Wars. So I don't think Star Wars is going to take much of a hit in terms of what they decide to make. It might be other one-off movies and stuff that doesn't have a built-in audience that Iger's like, nah.
Nice. Well, I'm going to end it with one last question from Blue Jedi. What up, Blue Jedi? How's it going? He said, who would you like to get for a guest on the broadcast, aka TRB, the most? We could start a tweeting frenzy. Look, I'm all for if you guys want someone on there, tweet them, let us know.
Please do.
We're all for it. As for me, my top guest is always going to be Mark Hamill. It will always be Mark Hamill. He's my childhood hero. It would be insane. Other than that, we talked about Katie. I think she'd be great. I think Daisy, John Boyega would be great. You just think about like who you'd want on the show. There's just so many. J.J. Abrams would be cool.
Oh, yeah.
But if we're talking about one like dream guest, it's always going to be Mark Hamill for me.
Yeah, for me, it's Lawrence Kasdan. I would love to pick his brain about his.
Are you going to look for him at the indie premiere?
Yeah, he probably would be there because he wrote the first one. Man, that would be so sick. I didn't even think about that. Oh man. Oh God, Lawrence Kasdan. Yeah, he would be my pick. And then also, of course, getting Alden Ehrenreich on the podcast would be amazing.
Alden would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. So, tweet away, hit people up on Instagram.
Let us know too, like who you'd love to see.
Please don't. Yeah. Anytime you want to help spread the word of TRB, like don't be shy. Just like you are why we're growing. So all of you out there, not just Blue Jedi. It's just him. He's the one who has to go out there and tweet. No, but
that's right, Blue Jedi. He said, "Let's manifest." Listeners too, guys. We're obviously talking about people in the live chat right now, but if you're listening right now, even if it's next week, 2 months from now, let us know who you want to see on the show.
Yeah.
Back to you, John.
All right, that does take us to the end of this show. Obviously, James will be back with us. I believe he should be back with us for Monday's show. But definitely hit him up at Myra Trunks on Twitter and Instagram, whether that's about Star Wars, Apple, or soccer, apparently. But James, we miss you and we'll see you soon. Now, as far as thank yous, if you like what we do here, if you're watching and listening, you clearly do. If you're able to support us, Patreon is the best way to probably do that. Aside from obviously listening and sharing the pod, but patreon.com/resistance broadcast. In my opinion, I think we have one of the best, if not the best, Patreons out there. We have a lot of perks, rewards, benefits, content. Our Discord server is such a welcoming, open place to everybody. I know it's Pride Month. We have always fostered a welcome, open community to everybody. It doesn't matter what you believe in, where you're from, who you are, your background. You are with us. We're a family together, and we celebrate our differences. And we always have such a good time in our Discord server, right, Lacey?
Oh, 100%. I am someone that has always, like I said earlier, treated other people with kindness. Everybody has different backgrounds, different viewpoints, different experiences in their life. And I think the best thing that we can do is just treat each other with respect, especially in fandom, because we all like the same thing. Like that's what makes Star Wars so awesome is that all these different people like the same stuff. So happy Pride to Fried. Oh my God. Happy Pride. Happy Pride to everyone that is celebrating. And I celebrate with you and support you. And you are welcome in this community at any time.
Yeah. I have your back 100%, always, no matter what, without question. And again, like Lacey said before about manifesting, we're only, life is short. We're only here. We're visitors in this life. Like we're not. This place is going to be here after we're gone, and it's like let people be happy. You shouldn't worry about other people living their lives the way they want to live their lives. So just be kind, be nice to people. And it's really not that hard. And yeah, we are a welcoming, open place for everybody in TRB. And I want to make sure everyone knows that. But I do want to say a special thank you to our generals and spice runners on our Patreon. CARMELO, John RISI, JETTA Rosewater, Frank Grande, Darth Hurricane, Nick KRATZ, Christian Morales, Brian Smith, Matt Chitty, DANI, Mike Ramori, Matt Heath, Brendan McLaughlin, Count Pepto, Sneaky Zebra, Aaron Ellington, Micah Harrison, Colin Cormier, Haz Aslam, Jolton Jedi DiMaggio, and Diana. And the spice runners, David Probus, Neil Shaw, Kendall Gelner, Dave Hornack, Tom Sennessy, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, Michael Fry, and the Fort Worthian. Thank you all so much. And to everybody, make sure you're subscribed to the pod. Did we hit 500? Did someone rate us on
Someone said
Spotify?
we're at 501.
We did it. All right. Thanks everybody for getting us over 500 on Spotify. Make sure you're subscribed to the show on your preferred platform, whether that's our YouTube channel or audio or both. It's free to subscribe, and please continue to spread the word. We appreciate that very much. As far as me, you can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and my movie podcast, Just Like the Movies, where we just put out an episode on my favorite Indiana Jones movie, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I'd appreciate it if you want to check it out. That'd be cool. Lacey, how about you?
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gilleran and on TikTok at It's Lacey Gilleran. And thank you to everybody in the chat for your kind comments. It's very exciting. Second time around.
Yes, we had two big reveals on this episode that we weren't sure we were going to reveal, but we did it, and that's the beauty of live podcasting. So we hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. And a reminder, if you arrived late, it will be immediately on the YouTube channel. If you are a night owl, I saw someone over in England. I believe Mickey's at 4 a.m. over there. Thank you for hanging with us, my man. And everybody else, it will hit your audio apps tomorrow morning. So fear not, as soon as I have my coffee. But have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful weekend. And we'll see you Monday morning with another episode right here on the Resistance broadcast. We'll see you around, kids.
All right. It was my time to do the outro. Bye, everyone.
See ya.